Dan Dickerson is the play-by-play voice of the Detroit Tigers out on a bus. Where are you at right now, Dan?
We're on the bus. We just landed in San Francisco. We're on the bus heading to the hotel in downtown San Francisco.
Talk a little bit about the season. I mean, you and Jim were with the team, all season long, all 62 games. What was your take on that team? Did you think they had this kind of run in them, Dan?
I did. I think we were just kind of waiting for it kind of all season long. I think that probably the biggest surprise was that the offense was as up and down as it was. But really, if you look at the pitching, it just kept getting stronger and stronger. And I think you can point to reasons why, you had the slow start. There were 6 games under, 58 games in. But really, from that point on, when you look at it, I mean, they finished 14 games over. So over the last 104 games, they played 20 games over the 500 mark, and that's a pretty good clip. So it was pretty steady. It was never that big, long, hot stretch that I think maybe some of us envisioned. And yet, I think the best thing is that 2 years in a row under Jim Leyland, they have finished strong. And that to me is always a good sign. And, they just take care of these pitchers, and they understand how to keep pitchers fresh, give them the extra day rest here and there, keep a bullpen fresh, and it all adds up. It's very big to be able to do that. And Jim Leyland, Jeff Jones, and their staff, they understand that. It's a big, big part of today's game, and the Tigers did it beautifully.
I really enjoyed your broadcast this year. You and Jim did a great job always, but this year I thought especially there was a level of candor in your broadcast about how frustrating this team was. And I know a lot of our fans here in Hillsdale County felt the same way. When is the real Tiger team that we expected in the spring going to show up? And I felt like some of that came through in your broadcast. Was it a case of just waiting for all of these talented players to put it together, Dan?
Yeah, I think so. And I think you could point to specific reasons why there was, some ups and downs. The offense, I think, was a surprise that it wasn't more consistent. When I look back at the end of the season, it was really a kind of a 40-game stretch where the offense averaged 5.5 runs a game, and the rest of the time, the games before that, about 72 games, and the games after that, another, what would that be, another 40-plus games. The offense averaged about 4 runs a game. So the offense never really heated up. The pitching was inconsistent, but you had Doug Fister, remember, off and on the DL. Max Scherzer had an ERA of 5.80 through 12 starts this year. So you just had some things. It seemed like there was a fire to put out almost
right.
Every few days for a while there. And then I think the offense was puzzling because run scoring for the Tigers was down in a year in which run scoring in the American League was basically the same as the year before. So you expected a little more, but it was pretty clear that the 5 through 9 hitters just weren't as consistent as everybody thought they would be. I think it hurt. This is a team that's beaten up left-handed pitching for years now, and it did not this year. And I think the lack of a big right that could torch lefties was a factor. Ryan Raber was a part that was disappointing. They thought he could, with 300-400 at-bats, it wasn't unreasonable to think that he could match his production of the last few years, and it just never happened. So, there are kind of specific things you could point to all the way along. So, yes, it was surprising. They probably didn't win more than 88, but in the end, they won the Central, and that was the main thing.
Right. Dan, Delman Young is such an enigma to so many fans. He struggled throughout the season, and then the playoffs click in, and it's almost like a different guy. What do you make of Delman Young, being with him and covering him on a day-to-day basis?
Well, he had one big season with Minnesota. And if you look at the rest of his career, it's kind of been like this, which is he teases you a little bit, and he can get hot. I think the thing that has surprised me in the time he's been with the Tigers is when he hits a home run, as someone had said about a good hitter a long time ago, when he hits the ball, it stays hit. I mean, he hits some of the longest home runs you will see, and it just kind of surprises you because you don't see it maybe as often as you might think you would, given his talent to hit a ball a long way. And I know there are frustrations with fans that, he's very aggressive. He chases a lot of pitches, but you know what? What do you want a guy to do? You want him to step up when it means the most. And 2 years in a row now, he's done that, and it's been fun to watch.
this season seemed to take a toll on Jim Leyland, 3/4 of the way through, struggling to catch up with the White Sox. It looked for a while like maybe the Tigers, with all of this payroll and all of this talent, wouldn't make the playoffs. They made it. They played great in the playoffs, and the emotional speech that he gave to the crowd at Comerica Park, a game that you were at the other night when they clinched, it just seemed that he kind of came full circle in the course of one season, and he's got to be so determined at this point to finish it for these fans and for this organization. Oh,
he absolutely is, and I hope people realize what a good job he did with his team, even though for a while it looked like they were not meeting expectations. To me, he just has that even keel approach works. It may be boring for fans. They might want to see a little more in the way of clubhouse, tirades or turning over the food table or whatever it is. But the even keel approach works in the end, and I think he's proven that. And I'll tell you what, and this guy's, the respect for Jim Leyland around the league is as high as it's ever been. I mean, people have to realize this guy is well respected around the league. I had a friend from Cleveland who's a scout for the Indians come into our booth earlier this year and say, I hope they listen to the fans and fire this guy.
Right.
Because they don't want to manage against him. They want to get him out of the division. And he's, Ray Fosse with the Oakland A's told him when he was in town, terrific former player, but he thinks he's the best in the league. And I think it is frustrating sometimes for Jim. Some of the second guessing that goes on. I think the thing that, and I always think he does this very well. He makes the point that he doesn't mind people second guessing or talking about the lineups because it generates interest. People are interested in these things. That's good. But I think his point also is just remember you don't always know about all the things that go into each day's decision to make that lineup, whether a guy's hurting, whether you're protecting a guy. And believe me, he protects guys by either sitting them against the tough pitcher or, they're not feeling right that day, whatever it is. He does a very good job of that. And believe me, the players appreciate that.
Last two things, Dan. You've been around the team and the coaches the last, few hours traveling out to San Francisco. What was the takeaway that you got from them about this matchup with San Francisco? What was their reaction to the fact that the San Francisco Giants will be their opponent in the World Series?
Well, not a whole lot. I mean, the plane is absolutely full, as you can imagine, with friends and family. Everybody gets to take at least one family member, and many have their whole family. So it's, there's several hundred people on this plane. And the coach is sitting up front, and we're kind of in the middle. So I would just think that, I think they're probably feeling good about the fact that they changed things up during this long layoff compared to 06. Mm-hmm. They learned from 06. I think that's important. I think anytime you've got Verlander, Fister, Sanchez, Scherzer, got to be feeling good about the matchup. San Francisco, I think, I love the matchup. I just, a historic first, two great franchises, terrific ballpark out here, great ballpark back home. I think there's a lot of national appeal to this, and that's why I'm excited about it.
Last thing, Dan, that pop fly that Prince Fielder called for and kind of hovered underneath, it seemed to hang in the air forever. And as a broadcaster, you're thinking, okay, I got to get this call exactly right. It'll be immortalized forever and ever. Had you thought ahead of time what you were going to say, and what did you think as that ball hung in the air for what seemed like 5 minutes?
It did seem, but I think Prince made it worthwhile because the way he called for it is because the way he was waving his arms, it just had to make you laugh a little bit. So he made it, I think he actually made it, the call more fun. When the ball finally did settle into his glove. It's a funny thing. You are very aware that the calls get played. I think, 99% of your calls that get replayed, you're just reacting to what's going on. So you just hope that you get it right. As Ernie always said, just make sure that the listener has a clear idea of what just happened. And if you do that, then you're a long way, 90% of the way there. So that's what I really work on. Make sure that, they have a clear picture of what happened. Hopefully you're, translating some of the excitement of the ballpark through the radio. And then you got this one call at the end of every series.
Yeah.
that you do have to think about a little. And, like, I couldn't say the Tigers are going to the World Series again because obviously that call from 2006 certainly got played quite a bit. So I had to come up with something different. And you are aware that you have to think about it. You can't script it, but you have to think about it. And you have to think,
right.
I mean, if the Tigers were to win the World Series, I mean, I think it's one of those calls that you just keep very simple. And then the rest of it is just kind of how you deliver it, how your voice, your inflection, whatever it is, your excitement. That makes it unique from, you know, every other call from the Giants or the world champions or the Cardinals or the world champions the last 2 years. So, and that to me is, that's kind of the key. It's just, you know, I'm different from the other announcers. So the way I say it's going to be different. And, I think keep it simple.
Well, Dan, you and Jim took Tiger fans on a wonderful ride this year, and we can't wait for the last chapter of the World Series. Thank you so much. Have a great time out in San Francisco.
Thank you. I sure will, Andrew. Take care.